They laughed when she stepped forward, not loudly at first, just quiet smirks, exchanged glances, the kind of disbelief that doesn't need words. The recruits stood tall in their fresh uniforms, confidence spilling out of them like it had already been earned, and then they saw her. An elderly woman. Gray hair pulled back neatly. Calm posture. Eyes steady, not wandering, not apologetic. Someone whispered, "Is this a joke?" Another chuckled. They dared her to take the shot. She didn't react. No offense, no explanation. No need to defend herself. She simply listened as the challenge was made, half mockery, half entertainment. The kind of dare meant to humiliate, not to test. The kind given when people assume the outcome before it begins. The range fell quiet. She took the rifle. And in that moment, something shifted. Not outwardly, nothing dramatic. But there was a stillness about her that didn't belong to beginners. Her hands didn't shake. Her breath didn't rush. She didn't look around for approval. She didn't need permission to belong there. She had already been there before. She positioned herself, adjusted her stance with instinct rather than instruction, and raised the weapon. The recruits were still smiling, still waiting for the miss, still prepared to laugh. The first target dropped, clean, precise, no hesitation. The smiles froze. The second target fell before the sound of surprise fully formed in the air. And then the third, and the fourth. Each shot landed with ruthless accuracy. No wasted movement. No flinch. No emotion. Just execution. The range echoed with impact after impact, and with every fallen target, the laughter disappeared. The cockiness drained. The assumptions collapsed. By the final shot, no one was breathing. She lowered the rifle and handed it back as if returning a borrowed pen. Polite. Silent. Every target was down, and in that silence, a lesson stood taller than any rank in that room. You see, arrogance is loud, but experience is quiet. Real skill doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to prove anything to people who mistake youth for mastery and volume for authority. The world has trained us to underestimate what doesn't look impressive at first glance, to dismiss what doesn't match our expectations, to assume that power must be flashy, young, loud, and aggressive. But real power is disciplined. That woman didn't win respect by demanding it. She earned it by demonstrating what most people only pretend to have: control, precision, presence. She had lived long enough to understand that confidence doesn't need an audience, and competence doesn't need applause. Those recruits learned something that day they would never forget. Not about shooting. About judgment. They learned that history doesn't disappear just because it has wrinkles. That experience doesn't retire simply because it doesn't wear the latest uniform. That strength doesn't always shout, sometimes it waits. We live in a culture obsessed with speed. Fast success, fast opinions, fast judgments. We decide who people are within seconds. We label, dismiss, and underestimate without ever asking what battles they've already survived. But life has a way of humbling those who confuse potential with proof. The most dangerous people in any room are not the loudest ones. They're the ones watching, listening, measuring. The ones who don't waste energy trying to impress. The ones who have already been tested by time, failure, loss, and pressure, and came out sharper, not louder. That elderly woman wasn't there to be seen. She wasn't there to compete. She wasn't there to make a statement. She was there because she belonged there. And belonging doesn't require explanation. Some of you listening right now know exactly what that feels like. You've been underestimated, looked over, dismissed, labeled as outdated, irrelevant, or incapable, not because you lack ability, but because you don't fit someone else's narrow definition of strength. You've walked into rooms where people assumed you had nothing to offer. Let me tell you something powerful. You don't need to correct their assumptions with words. You correct them with results. Silence paired with excellence is unstoppable. The moment you stop trying to convince people and start demonstrating truth, everything changes. Not everyone deserves access to your story. Not everyone needs to understand your process. Some people only learn when the targets fall, and there's no room left for doubt. That day on the range, the recruits didn't just witness skill, they witnessed humility being forced upon arrogance. And humility is one of the most valuable lessons anyone can learn, especially early. Because arrogance makes noise, but mastery makes history. So the next time you feel underestimated, remember this: being overlooked is not a curse, it's an advantage. It gives you space to prepare without pressure, to grow without scrutiny, to sharpen your edge while others are busy talking. Let them laugh, let them doubt, let them dare. Because when the moment comes, and it always comes, precision will speak for you. Consistency will answer for you. And results will silence every assumption that ever stood in your way. That woman didn't flinch, and neither should you. Not when it's time to take the shot.